My name's Alyssa Butler. I did my signature assignment over the notebook, and so this is my slideshow. Okay, so basically the background of the notebook really quick is Noah and Allie, they're like a really young couple, and they're in love, and then she goes off to college, and Allie's parents don't approve of Noah, and so Noah writes Allie a lot, and her mom like hides all the letters, and then eventually one day they find each other again, and they get back together. So, relation to course concepts, this film had a lot of nonverbal communication due to the fact that Noah and Allie were apart for a really long time, and then so they couldn't communicate like they normally would, like face to face, so everything was either assumed how one another felt or it wasn't said at all. Nonverbal communication is all human communication that transcends spoken or written words. It has 5 characteristics. I'm only going to be able to go through a few of them because I don't have a lot of time. Okay, so nonverbal communication is, it can be intentional or unintentional, and that's one of the characteristics. This is the characteristic of nonverbal communication where people give nonverbal cues about how they feel or what they're thinking. So if I wasn't actually talking to someone, but I'm tapping my foot, it's obvious that I'm nervous. Okay, so for example, when Allie was not receiving letters from Noah when they were apart, she assumed that he didn't want to speak with her, because when they broke up, he told her that he would write her, and then when he didn't, she assumed that he didn't want to talk to her anymore, that he was really done with her, that they had really broken up. Okay, nonverbal messages are primary. This is the characteristic that where a given verbal cue can be said, but the nonverbal cues say more. So, for instance, when Allie told Noah that she wasn't ready to go too far into the relationship, he agrees with her, but she could tell by his facial cues that he wanted to go further. So that's just a pretty broad example. So in this film, when Allie told Noah that she wasn't ready to go as far into a relationship as, like a really mature couple would, I guess, he was okay with it because he loved Allie and he wanted to make her happy and do whatever she wanted to do. But she could tell that he wanted to go further into the relationship and make it more meaningful because, they know each other, they're there for each other, they get it. But that's an example of a nonverbal message being primary because the nonverbal cues say more than what you're actually saying to that person. And so they can tell what you actually mean just by your reaction and your facial cues and what you're doing with your hands or your feet and your body movement or whatever. Nonverbal communication is continuous. This is the characteristic when nonverbal cues have a deeper meaning to someone else. So it might not mean a lot to you, but it means a lot to someone else that sees it from a different point of view, that is not seeing it the same way that you're seeing it, and that views it differently. You never stop communicating nonverbally at all. So, for example, when Noah sent Allie all of the letters and her mom hid them from her, that was a nonverbal cue that didn't go ignored forever. It was eventually found. So, all those letters that were sent to Allie from Noah, she didn't get any of them. Noah assumed that she was getting them, and Allie assumed that Noah wasn't sending them, when in reality, Noah was sending them, but someone was in the mix hiding those letters from Allie. So that's why she wasn't getting them, and that's why she assumed, okay, well, Noah doesn't want to talk to me. But in reality, Noah wanted to talk to her, just the messages weren't getting back to her because Noah and Allie weren't speaking directly. And that's when the nonverbal cues come into play, because if you're not speaking directly to someone and saying exactly how you feel, and they're not around to see your face, and it's just silence between each other, that's a nonverbal cue. Silence is a nonverbal cue. Just like it is when you're tapping your foot and you're nervous, that's a nonverbal cue because you might not be saying that you're nervous, but everyone around you knows you're nervous because you're making a scene, even if you don't think you are. So you never stop communicating nonverbally, just like in the film. Allie and Noah knew each other like the back of their hands, so they knew when one of them was upset or stressed out or happy, but they weren't going to show it because they communicate nonverbally, but they also communicate verbally when they were together. And when they got back together, it was easier to communicate instead of it being with just cues that neither one of them knew what was going on. And that's masacho.